Some of the most intense songs in rock history were born from one simple thing: pain. But what if I told you that some of them were inspired by a psychologist who believed that the secret to healing trauma was screaming until your soul tore apart? Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what John Lennon did, and he wasn't the only one. Decades later, a British duo read a book explaining this theory. They used this idea to write songs about pain, repression, and emotional release. Their name, Tears for Fears. And even today, artists continue to channel their pain into music that comes straight from the subconscious, the true primal scream. But what was this theory? Why did so many people, including some of the most creative minds in music, believe in it? And can screaming until you lose your voice really heal the deepest wounds of the soul? This is the story of Dr. Arthur Janov, the psychologist who convinced John Lennon to scream and changed music forever. In the 1960s, traditional psychology believed that trauma was something you just got over. Freud said you needed to talk about it. Others believed that time healed all wounds. But Arthur Janov, a California-based psychologist, disagreed. He believed that all emotional pain starts in childhood, moments when a child feels abandoned, rejected, or neglected. But instead of processing this pain at the moment, the brain does what? Buries it. The child grows up, becomes an adult, but that pain is still there.
In the city where we want.
The result? Depression, anxiety, addictions, self-sabotage. Janov claimed that, to truly heal, you needed to feel that pain again, not just remember it, but relive it completely. And how do you do that? With a primal scream. The story goes that Janov discovered this idea by accident. He was conducting a regular therapy session when a patient suddenly started crying and screaming like a desperate child. But something strange happened. After a few minutes of pure despair, the patient became calm, as if he had just expelled an inner demon. Janov was fascinated. So, he started repeating this experiment with other patients. The pattern was always the same. First, the pain, then the scream. Finally, deep relief. That's when primal therapy was born. Janov began to believe that this technique could cure any emotional disorder. And it was exactly this promise that caught the attention of one of the biggest icons of the 20th century. By the late 1960s, John Lennon was falling apart. The Beatles were breaking up. He was drowning in drugs. He had cut all ties with his family. And then, he heard about a psychologist in Los Angeles who claimed to have found a definitive cure for trauma. Lennon dove in head first. He and Yoko Ono spent months in therapy with Janov, and the sessions were brutal. Lennon cried, screamed, and thrashed on the floor. He relived every pain from his childhood, his mother's abandonment, the father who disappeared and never came back, his best friend, Stuart Sutcliffe, who died young, and when he left therapy, the first thing he did was record an album. John Lennon Charge Plastic Ono Band was a shock. No orchestration, no layers of instruments, just guitar, piano, and a voice loaded with suffering. And then Lennon sings, "Mama, don't go. Daddy, come home." The song, Mother. It's a Primal Scream therapy session turned into a song. Every track on the album is a punch to the gut. God, where Lennon rejects everything. Jesus, Buddha, Elvis, even the Beatles. Isolation, the raw confession of a lost man, working class hero. A brutal attack on a system that destroys dreams. The album divided opinions. Some called it a masterpiece. Others found it too uncomfortable. But one thing was undeniable. Janov had left his mark on music forever. Primal Therapy's influence didn't stop with Lennon. In the 1980s, two young British musicians, Roland Orzabal and Kurt Smith, found Janov's book, The Primal Scream, in a bookstore. And suddenly everything made sense. They had their own pain, their own trauma, and they turned it into music. That's how Tears for Fears was born. The band's name came directly from Janov's ideas, and their most famous song, Shout. Shout, shout, let it all out. It's a primal scream in the form of a song. Just like Mad World, which reflects the feeling of a cold, alienating world. Just like Songs from the Big Chair, an album whose title refers to the therapist's chair, the only place where you feel safe enough to cry. Here's the controversial part. Janov claimed that his therapy cured everything: anxiety, depression, trauma, all solved in a few scream-filled sessions. But science disagrees. Studies show that emotional catharsis can bring temporary relief, but the idea that a scream can heal deep traumas has no scientific proof. Even Lennon admitted, years later, that the therapy's effect was temporary. But here's the truth. Even if Janov was wrong about the science, he was right about the art. Primal Scream may not heal the soul, but it inspired some of the most powerful songs ever written. And maybe, in the end, that's more important than any therapy. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the history of music and psychology, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. This helps the algorithm recommend more videos like this. And tell me in the comments, do you think primal therapy really works? See you in the next video.